Okay, for your sky, you're going to want to start with a layer of benzimidazzolone yellow. I'm using the Acrylic brush number 12, and I'm laying that down pretty liberally, a fair amount of paint, and let it be very loose and soft on the canvas. Next, you're going to want to add in a little titanium white to give some texture to that sky. And again, we're working wet into wet, so make sure you use a liberal amount of paint. Just keep working on that sky and bring it down about 1/3 of the way. I like to wipe my brush rather than put it in the water. I don't like to bring any water back to my palette. Add a little bit of phthalo blue and begin your hills in the background. Just drag that phthalo blue right into the yellow that you have there. We're working wet into wet, remember, so you want to make those layers and those hills while the layer beneath it is wet. So you'll blend right on the canvas. Pick up a little titanium white and blend right into those hills. Keep going with titanium white, blending right into the hills. We're still using our Acrylic number 12 brush. Now pick up a little phthalo blue and blend that right into the green of the hill above it, and just keep building that phthalo blue hill by adding a little titanium white and blending it. Just continue building that phthalo blue hill with some titanium white and continue working wet into wet. Next, we'll pick up a little bit of that benzimidazzolone yellow and lay it right down on top of that wet blue area. A little titanium white, blend right into that benzimidazzolone yellow on top of the blue, and it'll give you a soft green. Keep adding the titanium white and pulling it down from the green. Now add a little benzimidazzolone yellow to that to make that section of the hill a little bit more yellow, so there will be a soft transition between those two. Once again, wipe off your brush when the paint builds up, but don't put it in the water. Now I washed my brush in the water and I dried it off really, really well to make sure there was no water in my paintbrush when I started painting again. Still using your number 12 brush, lay down a pretty thick layer of titanium white. Be very liberal and lay that down. We're going to use this as a layer to create a foreground landform. And you'll notice that I am using brush strokes that are sort of vertical, a little bit diagonal and vertical, creating texture with those brush strokes. Now using a little Quin Magenta, I go in and start building those landforms. And we're using Quin Magenta because it is the complementary color to green, so you'll see that it works really well with our green hills. Next, I've picked up some Benzimidazzlone yellow, and I'm bringing it right into that Quin Magenta to warm it up a little bit. I'll also take some of that yellow and use it all by itself. And just keep layering those colors wet into wet and let them blend on the canvas. Now I'll pick up some of that yellow and use it on the left-hand side and make the land a little bit warmer on the left. Blend it right into that titanium white and then reload your brush right in that yellow and just keep pulling it into that titanium white, using those sort of semi-vertical brush strokes, a little on the diagonal. Continue building that foreground land shape with titanium white and yellow. You can pick up a little titanium white, go back and pick up Quin Magenta, just play with that foreground landform. Make sure the top ridge of your land has a very organic feel. Little Quin Magenta here and there. A little titanium white once in a while, if you need it to lighten up certain areas. Just continue building that landform with a little Quin Magenta here and there. Now I'm going to switch over to my Princeton number 8 to start our trees. Load your brush with phthalo blue, start at the bottom and pull up to the top, and kind of roll that brush a little bit. Go ahead and take that tree trunk all the way to the top, and down at the bottom you can sort of pull a little bit of that blue out to give that tree trunk some stability. Add a little bit more to the tree trunk to make it a little thicker. Reload your brush with a little phthalo blue and continue with that tree trunk. Now add a few little branches coming out. Barely touching the canvas. You don't want to push down too hard or they'll be too thick. Now let's have another tree next to it. Load your brush with phthalo blue and push down and then pull up. Push down at the base of the tree and then pull that blue out to make it a good sturdy tree trunk. Do the same thing with the limbs, bringing some limbs out from the tree, but don't push down too hard. Extend those tree limbs out into the sky. Add a few smaller tree limbs. Let's have a smaller tree in the distance. This one's going to be a little thinner. Now I'm bringing out my fan brush and I'm making sure it's clean and very dry. I'm drying it off in the paper towels. So I'm using the fan brush, and first I dip it into phthalo blue and then pounce that on the trees, and use the fan brush in all different ways And this is the underpainting of our trees. You can see I'm turning that all different ways. Just keep building up that first layer of your trees with the phthalo blue, and be sure to leave some air so that you see some of that yellow sky from behind. Do the same thing with the tree in the background. Just tap, and I'm using mostly the tip of the fan brush so it makes a little bit smaller shape. Next, we bring in a little titanium white on that wet fan brush and just tap it right into the dark phthalo blue that's already there. Add more titanium white, creating a much lighter blue, and tap it right on top of that dark blue. Just keep building those trees. And the foliage with that fan brush, and that titanium white, let it blend right on the tree. Continue using titanium white to create that much lighter blue, and just pounce right on top of that darker blue to create more volume in the trees. Now pick up a tiny bit of quin magenta on your brush, mix it with a little bit of that phthalo blue and the titanium white to create a light purple. And just bring that in a few places. Just keep building that color, and in the foliage, using a little bit of that purple to accentuate the trees. And just using your fan brush and pouncing in all different directions. Now mix a little bit of quin magenta with titanium white, and using your number 6 Princeton brush, build a little bit of foliage around the base of the trees using just very simple brush strokes. Continue building those little bushes around the trees, at the bottom of the trees. using Quin Magenta, Titanium White, and a little phthalo blue to make a purple. And just build those little bushes around the trees. Now using a little benzimidazzolone yellow, build some little bushes there onto the hillside. Start with the yellow and then go back and pull in some Quin Magenta and just draw those little leaves from the top down using your number 6 to make nice soft lines. Take a little Quin Magenta and put a little bit of dark into those bushes just to give them a little contrast and texture. And finally, use your Quin Magenta and your number 6 brush to create some really small little bushes. And make sure you don't overdo it, but just build really small little bushes off in the distance. They're going to be pretty tiny, so the ones on the green hill will be smaller than the ones in the foreground. And just a few little hints of vegetation here and there. When you go to the furthest hill, make them really small, because as they go back in the distance, they're going to get very, very small. So just a few little touches of your paintbrush should do it, using the Quin Magenta, and that's the number 6 paintbrush that we're using. Continue creating your little bushes off in the distance. You don't need very many, just here and there, little tiny spots of vegetation. That gives your painting a sense of depth and space. Once you're happy with those little bushes here and there, you're finished. And you have completed another Fauve style landscape. Congratulations!